Hello, sports fans, and welcome to the Epic Sports Broadcasting Network for highlights from the historical Baseball Project 1993 replay featuring the Cincinnati Reds and the Texas Rangers. My name is Dave Little, and we are recording from the Dave Cave with highlights for the end of August 1993. The last 2 weeks of August are what we will cover in this week's edition. So let us switch over to the standings. We'll pick it up with the National League. This is effective at the end of August 15th. So before this week's ball games, we started with August 15th in the National League. In the East, it is Philadelphia with a 2-game lead over the surprising Chicago Cubs, and the Montreal Expos 4.5 games back, still in the hunt for the National League East pennant. In the West, it remains a 2-team dogfight between the Atlanta Braves and the San Francisco Giants. And as you will recall, 93 was a wild season where Atlanta won the division with, I believe, 104 wins, and San Francisco came in second with 103. And those two teams have separated themselves from the pack. And my beloved Reds, standing at 57 and 64, right about on pace with their real-life 1993 performance. In terms of individual league leaders, it is Andres Galarraga making a run at 400 for the Colorado Rockies. He is the story in August here in 1993. He has been on fire. Your MVP at this point in the race is still Barry Bonds, with 39 home runs and a league-leading 116 RBIs. Phil Plantier still leads the league in home runs with 44. And both Plantier and San Francisco Giants' Matt Williams are over the 100 RBI mark as we hit the August 15th mark. The top pitcher in the league is Bill Swift, 17 and 4 with a 2.29 ERA. Jeff Fassero out in Montreal is still your league leader in ERA at 1.89, along with a record of 8 and 3. And if you look at the wins leaders, you've got all 4 of the big studs from the Atlanta Braves, Glavine, Smoltz, Maddox, and Avery, with 15 or 16 wins on that remarkable pitching staff. Avery 5th in the league with an ERA of 2.68. And Randy Myers is your saves leader for the Cubbies with 31. For the Cincinnati statistics, the team leaders are, in terms of on the field from day to day, Reggie Sanders and Chris Sabo. Look at how similar these numbers are. Both coming in at a 271 average with 121 games played and 479 bats each. 17 home runs apiece. Sabo with 1 more RBI. And Reggie Sanders, of course, with more stolen bases and more strikeouts. Kevin Mitchell should be back in action for September. He's been sitting out to keep his at-bats under the league limit of 125%, but still has the very fine 371 batting average, 16 home runs, and 50 RBI. Hal Morris also checking in over 300, having a decent year for the Redlegs. The Reds pitching, Jose Rijo is definitely the man. 12 and 8 with a 3.58 ERA thus far on the season. Tim Belcher coming in at a fine 3.18 ERA. Jeff Reardon leads the team with 18 saves, but he's also got 7 losses and an ERA of 4.69, so hardly a stellar year for Jeff Reardon. All right, taking a look at the American League. We have 2 very good pennant races in the American League. In the East, it is the Baltimore Orioles with a 3-game cushion over the Toronto Blue Jays, and the New York Yankees still on the periphery of that race, 5.5 games back. And in the West, it is a 3-team hunt with Chicago leading by 2 over Kansas City and by 2.5 over California, with the Texas Rangers hanging in there. My Texas Rangers, 3 games under 500, sort of on the periphery of the pennant race, but they need to make a run here in late August and September to get back into this race. The story in terms of individual performances, it's all about Ken Griffey Jr., leading the league with 46 home runs, 113 RBIs, on top of a .322 batting average, almost good enough to make the top 6. Juan Gonzalez from Texas, our guy, has the 43 home runs, 86 RBIs, and a .303 batting average. He's fallen off somewhat, but still an outstanding year for Gonzo. The batting title is a 2-man fight, as Harold Baines and John Olerud are both upwards of .365 and looking to battle it out down the stretch to see who will be the batting champion for the American League in 1993. On the pitching side, we got a couple of 17-game winners. Kevin Apier is having the best year of anybody for Kansas City, 17-7 with a 2.43 ERA. Jimmy Key also weighing in with a 17.7 record and a fine ERA of 2.95. Roberto Hernandez from Chicago leads the league with 28 saves. For our Texas Rangers, Juan Gonzalez is still on top with a .303 batting average and, as we mentioned, 43 home runs, 86 RBI. David Hulse also coming in over 300. Rafael Palmeiro approaching 300. He's up to 296, 26 home runs, and a team-leading 91 RBI. And Dean Palmer also with good power numbers, 28 home runs, 86 RBI, and a batting average hanging around the 240 mark. For the pitching is still a challenge. 2 10-game winners. Roger Pavlik, 10-6 with a 4.06 ERA, has been one of the bright spots of this team. Kevin Brown still toiling with a sub-500 record at 10-13, ERA of 4.77. Kenny Rogers is still a hot mess. Nolan Ryan, 7-3 with a 2.60 ERA. And he's going to have a couple of fine performances this coming week, as you'll see when we get to this week's highlights. So very exciting year for the elder statesman, Nolan Ryan, for the Texas Rangers. Tom Henke leads the club in saves with 25 and a fine ERA of 3.30 for Henke. All right. That having been reviewed, let us get into this week's action. We will start with the Cincinnati Reds, who opened the homestand with a 3-game series against the New York Mets. 3 fine pitching performances. The Mets take 2 out of 3. It all started on August 16th with the Mets' Sid Fernandez delivering 8 strong innings to propel the Mets to the opening game victory, outdueling the hometown favorite for Cincinnati, Larry Lubers. Fernandez yielded only a home run to Chris Sabo among 5 hits over 8 innings for his victory. The Reds threatened in the 9th but could not do any further damage after Sabo's home run. Bobby Bonilla with a home run for New York in that one. Game 2 took 10 innings. And it was a home run by Jeff Kent in the top of the 10th that gave the Mets the extra inning win after a marvelous pitching duel between Doc Gooden and Jose Rijo. Rijo led the game 1-0 going into the 9th, but Joe Ursulak led off with a triple for the Mets and scored on a sac fly by Ryan Thompson to tie the game. With 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th, the Reds loaded the bases but failed to score, and that set up Kent's heroics, as Josias Manzanillo put away the threat in the 9th for the victory, and Mike Maddox saved it in the 10th. The Reds had plenty of opportunities, but left 9 men on base and grounded into 4 double plays in that loss. The Reds were able to salvage the series finale on August 18th, courtesy of a 3-run homer by Kevin Mitchell to walk it off, bringing the Reds back from the brink of a sweep. The game was tied at 2 after 6 innings, but Reds reliever Bobby Ayala coughed up a bases-loaded walk, followed by a bases-loaded hit batsman to put the Mets up 4-2. The Reds appeared to be headed quietly to another defeat until the 9th, when the first 2 men reached base off Pete Shurik to set the stage for Mitchell's walk-off winner. Next up for the Reds, the Montreal Expos came to town in the middle of that AL East pitching race, and the Reds were able to take 2 out of 3 from the Expos to put a damper on Montreal's month of August and their hopes of staying alive in the race. The Expos began the series with a win, another snake-bitten defeat for the Reds, 4-3 on August the 20th, as Montreal scored the go-ahead run with 2 out in the 7th inning on a balk by Reds reliever Steve Foster. The Reds brought the go-ahead run to the plate in the 8th inning, but Will Cordero, who is a 4.44 at shortstop, turned to double play to end the threat, and the Reds went quietly in the 9th, facing Brian Barnes. On the 21st of August, Cincinnati turned the tables when they manufactured 2 runs in the 8th inning, courtesy of a fielding error by the Expos first baseman John Vanderwall. That was Vanderwall's 3rd error of the game. The game was a back-and-forth battle throughout, but the Reds had the last laugh when they tied the game in the 7th on a double by Gary Varsho and pushed ahead in the 8th on Vanderwall's error before Jeff Reardon came on to pick up the save after a shaky 9th inning performance. And on August 22nd, it was all about Jose Rijo, and the Reds offense finally woke up for the final game of the homestand. Cincinnati jumped on Dennis Martinez and relief pitcher Jeff Shaw as the Reds plated runs in each of the first 5 innings to jump out to a 7-0 lead. Reggie Sanders started the party for the Reds with a 2-run homer in the first, and Sanders went on to record 3 hits and score 3 times. Jose Rijo was the beneficiary of the onslaught for the Reds, cruised through 8 innings to pick up his 13th win of the season. All right, so the Reds finished the week at 3-3. Let's take a look at the Rangers. A very good week for the Rangers. Rangers actually went 5-1 for the week. They started off with a 3-game set against the Boston Red Sox. 3 fine pitching performances, 3 one-sided ball games, as the Rangers take 2 out of 3. Game 1 was all about Nolan Ryan, 8 1/3 innings of 7-hit, 1-run baseball to lead Texas to the win over Boston. Texas put up 5 runs in the 4th off Danny Darwin, stringing together 6 hits in the inning to take the big lead and effectively end the suspense in this one. David Holtz had a nice night, 2 hits and 2 RBI. And Juan Gonzalez pounded his 44th home run of the season. And we'll hear more from Juan Gon throughout the homestand. On August 25th, it was Paul Quantrill and Ken Ryan combining to stifle the Rangers' offense for Boston. And Kevin Brown coughed it up for Texas. He got off to a good start, kept Boston scoreless until the 6th when Mo Vaughn hit a home run, a 2-run shot. The wheels fell off for the Texas bullpen in the 8th as Boston put up 5 in the 8th to put that one away and even the series. The Rangers came back in Game 3 behind Kenny Rogers. Kenny Rogers going the distance, surrendering only 1 run on 4 hits, walking 5 and striking out 3. Mo Vaughn put Boston on top in the first with an RBI double, but then Rogers hunkered down, battling Frank Viola throughout. The Rangers finally knocked Viola out of the box in the 5th with a 3-run outburst, capped by RBI singles from Gary Redus and Rafael Palmeiro. A pinch hit by Manuel Lee, a 2-run double in the 7th, broke that one open and gave Rogers the opening he needed to go the distance. So finally a decent performance by Kenny Rogers as the Red Sox take the series. Next up, the Baltimore Orioles came to town, and the Rangers actually swept Baltimore. On August 27th, we had a tremendous game, the best game of the week so far. Texas went back and forth with the East-leading Orioles. Mike Messina battling Roger Pavlik. Each team put up single runs in the first, and then single runs again in the third. And with the score tied 2-2, the Rangers put up single runs in the fourth and the fifth to go ahead 4-2. Two of those runs came from solo homers by Juan Gonzalez. Mike Devereaux gave the Orioles a run in the sixth with a sacrifice fly to make it 4-3. But Pavlik was able to bear down and hold Baltimore scoreless for the seventh and the eighth before turning it over to Tom Henke for the save in the ninth as the cell phone goes off. The 28th of August was another victory for the Rangers, this one 6-3. This was another tight game. The Rangers jumped out to a 4-2 lead in the third, scoring 3 runs on 5 consecutive singles. Charlie Liebrandt played Chuck and Duck into the seventh for Texas, managing to leave the game with a 4-3 lead. Texas picked up 2 key insurance runs in the seventh on a double by defensive replacement Doug DeCenzo, allowing the Rangers' pen to breathe easier and deliver the game to Henke for another perfect save in the ninth. Dean Palmer 3 for 3 in that one, and the big RBI hits coming from Palmeiro and DeCenzo. And on the 29th, it was another thriller to end the homestand. Nolan Ryan and Jamie Moyer, the two veterans, dueled into the night. A fourth-inning home run by Juan Gonzalez was the only offense that the Rangers would need, as Ryan made that run stand up for 8 2/3 innings, surrendering only 4 hits and 4 walks while striking out 6. Moyer went the full 8 innings for Baltimore, allowing only the 1 run on 7 hits and 3 walks while striking out 7. So it'll be interesting to see as the other results come in how this sweep affects the Orioles' hopes in the pennant race. At the week's end, it is the Cincinnati Reds coming in at 60 and 67 as we have completed August. That is 2 games behind their regular season pace. And for the Rangers, they're also 2 games behind their regular season pace, coming in with a record of 63 and 62. And hopefully getting over the 500 mark will propel them to a run down the stretch, and maybe they can get back into this pennant race before all is said and done. Coming up this week, games from September 1st through the 15th, as the Reds welcome the Philadelphia Phillies, the AL East Division leaders, for a 3-game set, followed by a pair against the St. Louis Cardinals. 5 games for the Reds this week. The Rangers have a full 9-game homestand featuring the New York Yankees, the Minnesota Twins, and the Cleveland Indians. All right, so that is it for today's broadcast. Sorry about the ringing of the cell phone in the middle of all of that. But we are finished here, and we'll be back next week with more highlights. That's our stream, and I am out of here.